I'm Steve. Mark's working late tonight, and this is Smokey Steve and Mark. Welcome or welcome back, and happy Thursday. It's almost Friday. Almost Friday. So today we are going to continue, sort of, with our series on caretaking. This would be, I guess, part 8, part 9. I don't know if you'd even count it as a part. Um, so far during this series, we've been talking about a couple, Cynthia and Thomas Beaumont. Today, there's no room for hypotheticals because I'm kind of taking the gloves off a little bit, and I'll tell you why in a second. But what we've been doing is following this couple, where, if you're not familiar, Tommy is 73, has cancer, and his wife Cynthia, who's about 49, 50, is his caretaker, and people have had grave concerns about the care that she's providing for him now that he's ill. And we were comparing the choices they were making with what choices Mark and I might make if we were in a similar situation. And needless to say, they didn't line up very closely. Now, why would I suddenly not speak in hypotheticals? One, that's confusing me. And two, I've been watching, and this makes me feel like I'm not as nice of a person, and after you see this, you might think I'm not as nice of a person. But having watched their channel for 5 years, and I used to love it, we used to talk back and forth and all that kind of stuff, it occurred to me that this is not like a voyeuristic television show. These are not characters. This is not a man and a woman playing a caretaker and playing a man with cancer. These are two real people who live about 2 hours away from me. And this one person, the guy with cancer, Tommy, it doesn't look good. He really doesn't look good. It looks like he's getting worse, actually, as time goes on. So I wanted to share some thoughts that I've kind of kept to myself, because I think it's wrong to make light of their situation. I don't think it's right to say nothing, because if I'm sitting here watching someone who I think is being treated poorly and I say nothing, doesn't mean I have to do anything. I know there's people that have tried to call APS and call the local police. That's not my intention. That's nothing I want to do. But just to shed light on it, so I can feel like I said something about it, and then drop it and just leave that there. But she's getting the Chantal treatment. Yes, Cynthia, you get notes. So, again, because they're real people, it's kind of striking more of a chord with me than it used to when I would watch it kind of like a show. So, they were a small channel, again, that I liked. Our falling out happened, and I was a little more relaxed about it. Mark was a little more upset. Happened because Pam Talks. All problems come back to Pam Talks, as you must know. Pam Talks put out videos around when Tommy got sick, talking about how Cynthia had her head in the sand and how she needed to take Tommy to a doctor because he was losing a large amount of weight very quickly. And Pam would make videos about Cynthia. Pam made some good points. So I had commented on one of Pam's videos, I watch your channel, but I watch Cynthia's too, and we can all use a good reality check now and then. And because Cynthia, as far as friendships go, is about 9 years old, it turned into, I don't like Susie, so if you like Susie, I can't be friends with you, and we were blocked. So she needs the slightest slight. There's no reconciliation with Cynthia. None. So Pam Talks, which many of you know, she's another channel that did reviews. Now she does them kind of hit or miss. Was reviewing their channel after Tommy was diagnosed. And say what you want about Pam, I would, we all can. As Tommy was losing weight and Cynthia was insisting it was heartburn, Pam was saying, get him to a doctor. There's something wrong with him. If the guy can't eat, there's something wrong. What's causing the heartburn is the big concern. And Pam was right. There was something else wrong. There was a reason he was losing weight. It wasn't just heartburn. Now, I don't know if that's why Cynthia has such a hard-on for her, but I can't take it away. You can, again, say what you want about Pam. I think she was right. She was right. Something else was going on. So Pam continues to make more videos as this goes along, commenting on their treatment choices. She really doesn't like Cynthia, or really just doesn't like the choices she's making. She never say anything negative about Tommy. I never had much to say about Tommy. It's just that I feel bad for the situation he's in. So after a few more videos, Pam gets swatted. doxxed probably. I think her name might have been out there anyway. But she got swatted, I think, during a live stream. Now, Pam's like a 60-year-old woman. You know, she's not Nikocado Avocado or anybody, you know, she's like she's got a couple thousand subscribers at the time and just making videos. So you can't say that Cynthia and Tommy had anything to do with that. But some of us, you know, on YouTube can attract subscribers who are venomous in defense of the people that they follow. And I've seen subscribers go back and forth in comment sections. You see it like on Chantal's site, you see it Cynthia and Pam's, and Amber Lynn has some supporters, though a lot of haters. So people fight in the comment sections and do things, and then they go off of there and go on to Guru Gossip is another site where there's a lot of information and people who talk about Cynthia. And Cynthia, God bless her, has it narrowed down in her head, either seriously, that it's only two people who talk about her, Pam and Tommy's nephew Stan, and that the 200 pages of blogging that's there is two people talking to each other, making up phony accounts. Either she honestly believes that, which is totally delusional, it's three of us, I guess, or she knows that it's more people and she's trying to control the message with her viewers that it's just a couple, that it's not. There's not a lot of people that don't like me. It's very important to Cynthia to feel popular, to feel famous, to feel noticed, to feel important, to have people think she's a good wife, to have people think she's a good person. She doesn't go to great lengths to prove any of that, but I think it's important to her to feel that. So anything that pushes back against that, she will dismiss, delete comments. She has every right to edit her comment section, and boy, does she. A lot of foreign comments. I think when you buy subscribers, a lot of times that happens, though. So, chemo starts. He's in chemo for about 3 months, and the decision was surgery, chemo, and they went with, you know, the chemotherapy. And Tommy's very loyal. They do not go anywhere without each other. They're just one of those kind of couples. And that's not them. There's a lot of couples like that. But as far as going to doctor's appointments, she went with him for the first couple appointments for chemo. And Tommy had said as much, if you have an appointment, I would, you know, I always try to go with you. And she's like, oh, you're so good to me. And for his other chemo appointment, she doesn't go. It's too early in the morning. I have to get up at 5 so my back can loosen up. So she would have to get up too early in the morning to go, and he's fine to go on his own. She would be bullshit if he let her go to an appointment alone. Unless she had to, unless it was her croaker doctor who writes for the perks. There's no way she would go by herself. So this uneven selflessness. You know, Cynthia doesn't work. She does YouTube. And the way she does it is probably like a job, but not in a nice way. Like, if you can't even eat without pulling out the camera and calling it a mukbang, you know, if you can't watch TV without someone pointing a camera at you, if you can't eat without it, if you can't sleep without it, if you can't open a piece of mail without it. You know, Mark and I film a lot, but I mean, the camera's on for us, half an hour a day. We still have the whole rest of our lives to ourselves. Not that we do things drastically different than we do on camera, but we have a life outside of YouTube, you know. They don't. This is what they got going on. So Cynthia may be busy, but don't confuse being busy with working. There's a difference. So, you know, entering contests all day on Twitter is not the same as having a job. So after the chemo, he starts gaining weight again. He gains about 10 pounds. He's looking better. He's still lucid. Put a pin in that. But then the idea of the surgery comes up because it's like 70% chance that it won't come back or would come back. I mean, Cynthia didn't like the odds, and Tommy didn't want to have surgery. He was scared. Surgery is scary. And he was like, well, we'll see. We'll see. My dad used to say, we'll see, when I was a little kid. It meant no. But Tommy doesn't want to disappoint Cynthia, upset Cynthia. You can see the dynamic in their relationship is that she pretty much calls the shots. And if he says no, she's going to bring him around. She's going to bring him around and then make him think it was his idea to begin with. She's slick like that. You can say Cynthia's dumb. You can say she's not educated, but she has him around her little finger, and she has probably for a long time. So he gets the surgery. She explains to him they're just going to go in, scoop it out. She thinks it's a one-night stay in the hospital, her words. and that he's going to be home. She does no research because she doesn't want to upset herself. She doesn't want people in the comments to leave suggestions or anything like that because they will upset her. He's the one who's going under the knife. He should be prepared. He should know what's going to happen in treatment. Excuse me. He should know what's going to happen while he's in the hospital, after care, where he might go. Does he need to go to a rehab? What's his appetite going to be like? Is he going to have a feeding tube? All of a sudden, the anthem post-op was, "We didn't know, nobody told us. We didn't know, nobody told us. This nurse wasn't even nice to us. This person didn't call us back. The doctor didn't even say hi." Everything became, everyone's rude to us, everyone lied to us, no one told us anything. See, Tommy, we're on our own. So, again, corner Tommy into a place where I'm the only one you can trust. So, that's just, isolating a person is so from the people around them in that way. I mean, these are medical providers. They just did his surgery to save his life. Did surgery to help save the man who's worked 25 years, day in and day out, winter, rain, summer, all of it, while Cynthia stayed home and did almost nothing. And it's, you know, he's being... So, and one of the reasons that the surgery was pushed for after the chemo by Cynthia, again her words, was going for all those post-chemo appointments every few months would be a hassle. Is this less of a hassle, Cynthia? Is less of a hassle what you're doing now? And Cynthia would never say that the surgery was a bad idea, so she has to blame everybody else within eyeshot for a decision that she pushed for. Cynthia will never say something was a bad idea if she made a mistake. Never. Remember when she charred the shit out of that turkey and then kept taking bites of it, insisting it tasted good? No. If Tommy burnt that turkey, she'd be screaming at the top of her lungs about it, but because she did it, it's actually still pretty good. It just doesn't look nice. Yeah, I'm being a little bitch today. I'm sorry. So he comes home after his surgery. People wonder why he didn't go to a rehab. I don't know. And she wants to feed him a pain pill, even though he can't swallow. So she mashes it up in a little bit of applesauce and gives it to him. But when she called the emergency line and they said, mash it in applesauce, she kind of figured the quantity of applesauce was a whole serving. And she gave him a few. And then he lost, I guess, a stitch where his surgery was done because he had esophageal cancer, so they dragged all this up to here. And it was getting into his body cavity, and things were bad. So because she was not able to follow directions, and she kind of took her own, you know, cues, put him back in the hospital again. And then he was out, and he looked worse this time. He looked much worse. And again, the fixation became, we got to get him fat, we got to get him well. So he has a feeding tube, and instead of the prescription feed that the hospital gave, and the oxygen that they provided, and all these other home health things they insisted on, because he wanted to go, they wanted him really to go to a rehab, her words again, after the second surgery, but he wanted to be home. Tommy is not deemed incompetent, which means he can choose his medical care. And even if he was, she's the person who's going to make those decisions, as scary as that sounds. So he comes home. And is this less hassle? Is it? So the feeding tube that he has is his lifeline at the moment. And the prescription feed is probably meant to be digested in a certain way, because the tube is lower. It's not going into his stomach. I think it's going to the intestine, maybe. At any rate, it's formulated to be digested where the tube enters. Cynthia decides that that's not a good idea, and decides to put Boost in it instead. I don't know if she ran it by anybody. I would imagine she didn't. But she's doing that. She's also upped the amount of feed she's giving him. She's running it during the day, and I think it's supposed to be run at night, but God forbid she have to get up in the middle of the night to fix something. Yeah, it's a hassle to take care of a sick person, but you took it on. That's what you wanted, you know? So, that, And, okay, the wheelchair. Tommy needed a wheelchair to get around. And, yeah, get him outside. Who wants to sit in the apartment all day? I wouldn't, with neither of them. So, get outside. And Rico is around to help. And that's fine. There's a video where he's saying thank you for the wheelchair. Now, Tommy seems less lucid this time around, whether he's just incredibly tired or incredibly depressed or maybe losing some function. He's sitting in a wheelchair and he's wailing, crying, wailing. I remember going to nursing homes when, like, my grandfather was sick. I would see people sitting in their rooms, sitting up in bed, wailing the same way. Those were the folks who had dementia. I'm not a doctor any more than Cynthia is. So no, I'm not going to guess what's wrong. Whatever the reason was, it was shameful to film that and put it on YouTube. To take someone who's in such a vulnerable emotional spot, and film that and put it up. Was it his idea? Was he eager to say, turn the camera on me? Or did you just start filming? Maybe not even tell him that you posted it? I mean, wrong. It was equally as wrong as when the feeding tube video came out, where, you know, Cynthia says, it's time sensitive. You only have 10 minutes or 15 when the tube comes out to get it back in. So she filmed it. So the urgency wasn't get the tube back in, it was get the camera so we can show putting the tube back in. So it shows priorities there. I don't know. And then the last two things I want to talk about were the straps. People were accusing her of strapping Tommy to the chair. In the sense that I think people are thinking about it, no, I don't think Cynthia is strapping him to a chair. They have straps they use in the hospitals. I'm familiar with being restrained, not personally, but from folks on the mental health side of things. There's a couple kinds of restraints, and there's a couple reasons people use them. Physical, where you would tie somebody down, and chemical, where you would give somebody a medication, you know, like the old Thorazine shot or something like that. But it could be taken orally so that they're more docile, so they're not going to get up and hurt themselves. Then there's the reasons to do it. The first, and only, should be to protect them from themselves from getting hurt. The other reason is for the convenience of the caregiver, so they don't have to constantly get up and have to watch the person and put them back in bed. Now, in a hospital setting, when a person's in restraints, they're monitored more closely. They're monitored usually, I'm going to say, depending on the situation, could be every 15 minutes. Not that their vitals are taken necessarily every 15 minutes, but it's more often. They're not left alone for hours at a time, strapped in, even if they're asleep. So, I'm not coming down on her for making use of them, necessarily, but relying on them instead of good care is different. Anybody taking sleep medication while one person is tied up is not a good idea. It's just not a good idea. And you don't have to pass 8th grade to kind of put together why. So, and then the last thing is now Cynthia, her reason now for not letting any medical professionals in the house, because Cynthia doesn't want the visiting nurse, the physical therapist, nobody. She hasn't for a couple months. 6 weeks, maybe 2 months. And the reason now is because they might have the coronavirus. So this news, which sprung up rather quickly, has now been the reason Cynthia wants nobody in the house. She's ordering things by mail, having them shipped in, and they're just holding up in their little hovel and hanging out. So now nobody is coming in because of the coronavirus. She's acting like it's Ebola that's happening 2 blocks away. Yes, we should all take the precautions the CDC and the World Health Organization is telling us. Of course we should. But they didn't hit the giant panic alarm yet. So, at any rate, it's bullshit because it's an excuse she's using now that she couldn't use before, but she was doing the same thing. The bottom line is that she wants to control every single aspect of what's going on with him, and she doesn't want anyone else to come in. And she would never let somebody ask Tommy a question alone. Ever. Without her there. So, I don't know. Is what's going on actionable? I've heard people say they called, like I said, APS or the police, and that's not my intention. That's nothing I want to do. But I think it's important to shine a light on it, because I think it's an example of the darker, this to me is the darker side of YouTube, actually. Because I think it borders, I'll say borders, on exploiting a sick person. I think when a person falls asleep 3 times during a video because they can't keep their head up, I think when a person's rearranging themselves on camera because they're in pain, letting someone fall asleep in their chair while you're doing a mukbang, I mean, I just think it's in poor taste. Certainly, oh my god, the crying video, again, the crying video that was filmed. I just think it's, shame on you. Shame on you, Cynthia. So that's all I really have to say. Again, their channel, their life, they can do as they like, but I would feel remiss to, every time I'm doing the caretaking video, I'm like, if Tommy's still around next week, if he were to pass away, I don't want to do it. And I hope he doesn't pass away. I've seen sicker people get better. They do. But they don't get better with no medical intervention at all. I mean, prayer heals, true, but, sometimes a good doctor isn't a bad idea. So that's all I have for now. Thank you for listening. This was a little more raw than usual, but I was a little more hot than usual about the topic. So do forgive any expletives or eye rolling, but I felt like I had to say a few things and just kind of get them off my chest. And this is my second time filming this, because the first one I was a little more heated. So thank you all for watching. Please do subscribe, hit the like button. You can follow Mark and I on Facebook at SmokeySteveAndMarc, or on Instagram at SmokeySteveAndMarc. Our email address and contact info is all listed below. Thank you for watching, and we will catch up with y'all tomorrow. Bye.